Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't ironed this bag, I literally just made it. But this is the Zip and Go by Moments by Liz. So I did all the options with the front pocket, the handles, and the back slip pocket to teach you how to do this. If you'd like to see how it's made, please stay tuned. Alrighty guys, let's get sewing. I have a new phone stand thing too, so I'm hoping that this is going to work out well. So I am making this one with pocket and the handles and everything. I don't have 1 inch webbing, but I've got 3/4 of an inch, so I'll be using this one. It's still going to work, so that'll be fine. It's mainly because it matches everything else that I've got going on. So we're also going to do the pocket. I am, however, stitching in black because I don't want to do it in pink and I don't have the right color turquoise, so that's what I've chosen to do. I'm also following along with the pattern, so I haven't even read the instructions for this. I'm just going to follow along with it because this is a new thing I'm trying to do, so that if you're trying to read along, you can kind of see what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is stitch along the top and the bottom of this. So I'm going to backstitch, stitch along, backstitch. I'm going to pull it out, trim my tail, and then come along and do the bottom. Stitch along the bottom like that, pull it out, trim my tails. And then we're going to flip it so that right sides are out. And we're going to top stitch it and stitch both sides. So I'm going to press it first. So I'm just going to finger press this so that it sits where I need it to. And then I'm going to tack the sides and top stitch the top. So we're not going to see these raw edges, so we're not too kind of fussed what they look like, as long as they're going to be within the seam allowance. So I'm doing 1/8 of an inch, and then we're going to pivot with the needle down and then top stitch the top. So that's the one we do care what it looks like, because you're going to see that one. And then we're just going to baste down the side. Not that I was doing it wonky, but I'm just not extra worried. So that is now what your pocket should look like. I possibly have done it on a different angle to what you have, but that's okay. So now we're going to take our back piece. So my back piece, I have put the foam on. I've also got extra heavy non-woven iron-on interfacing, which is what I use on the exterior of all my bags to give it a nice shape without being too stiff like stabilizer. It's just what I like to use. So now we're going to need an erasable marker of some description and a ruler. And so we're going to measure. You've got to pick which side's your top. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go that way. So this one's going to be my top. And we're going to measure down what the pattern says. Now, I don't give out measurements, as you all know. Oh, hold on, I'm on the wrong piece. Oh no, it wants me to build the back first. Alright, so it wanted me to do the pocket, and then it wants me to grab the back. So I was wrong about that. So we're going to grab our back, which by the look of it, I have cut on the opposite angle. Oh well. So I'm going to mark the mark I was supposed to do along there. Now this is a Chaco pen, so it's like a wheel that deposits chalk dust, which are really cool. And then that way is not long enough. And so then we're going to measure there, like that. So we're going to put 3 measurements on here. And there. So this is your strap placement markings. So then, to help it hold in place while we stitch it, we're going to take some double-sided tape and put it to the inside of the line that we just drew. Now, another thing you can use if you don't have a Chaco pen is a chalk pencil like they use in tailoring, or you can even use a friction pen, and then at the end you can just iron it off. So I'm just going to rub on this a little bit back and forth to heat the glue up to make sure it's going to stick, because it's being stubborn and won't. Since when does my double-sided tape not stick to things? That's a new one for me. All right. There's one piece. If you are more advanced, you could potentially skip the double-sided tape for this, which is what I'm about to do because it's fighting me way too much. It doesn't want to stick to the fabric, which is really weird. All right. No, don't worry about it. Not dealing with that today. So I'm going to grab some webbing. And it's got written here how much I need, which is good because I haven't pre-cut them. So I just got this roll of webbing off eBay. So it's nothing overly spectacular. It's just eBay webbing. I actually bought a whole bunch of different colors because I was going to use them to make horse stuff. But it was the wrong kind of webbing. So it works really well for this though. And then I'm just going to quickly grab the lighter and run it through over the edges so that they don't melt and fray and carry on. Now a little tip, if you don't want it to discolor, you put it through the blue part of the flame down the bottom there. Especially if you're using like a white or a light color, you don't want it to discolor at all. Okay. So now I'm going to lay this on my marking, which for you is probably with your double-sided tape. And then I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to backstitch and do 1/8 of an inch and then follow my chalk markings that I've made. So I want to only stitch to the line, and then I'm going to pivot and stitch across the line. Now don't be fooled because this is on an angle. Follow your markings, that's why we make them. And then I'm going to stitch down the other side and backstitch when I get back to the edge. Now to do the other side, we're going to keep this straight and then just twist it around to come into here. And then I'm going to stitch from the bottom again. I'm going to move Scully out the way so I don't knock it. So I'm going to do a couple of stitches forward and then backwards to lock it in. And then I'm stitching up to my chalk line, needle down and pivot, stitch it down, and then down the other side, making sure that we backstitch. And I just need to give that an extra little singeing because this is a very, very polyester type handle. There's one handle. Yay! All right, next step. Now we're going to grab this and do the markings I was doing. So the top one's already on. Yay! And then I'm going to draw that one and then extend it all the way down like so, because it's easier to follow a line that's already there. Down and then do, I don't have to do past the top line like I nearly did then. And then the bottom markings you only have to put between the lines because that's where the bottom of your pocket is going to sit. Or at least that's my assumption. I feel like I'm onto that. I am. Okay, so we're grabbing our pocket and we're going to line it up between those markings. Now there will be a little bit of a gap, but it's meant to be like that. And then we're going to stitch just the bottom. So I'm still going to backstitch because I want to lock this in, and you won't see the backstitching because it's underneath where the strap's going to live. And then backstitch. So that's the bottom of our pocket now attached. If you're worried that that's going to move at all, you could also baste down the sides. I'm fairly confident that I'm all right though. And then we need to get another piece for our other handle. Now your handles are obviously a different size because this one's doing the whole length and the other one was only doing the top section. So measure it out like so, and then cut it. And then I'm going to melt it again because I don't want this to carry on. Also, try not to inhale the fumes. It does not smell nice. It kind of smells like BO, to be honest, this stuff. And I know it's not me. I had a shower right before this video. Okay, so with the pocket facing up to the top, I'm going to start at the bottom and line up my webbing on the inside of that line that we've drawn. And then I'm going to stitch up to the top line, making sure that that's all nice and lined up. And I'm still using my 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now, if you don't have webbing, you could definitely make strapping out of like a contrasting fabric, like your lining or something. That would be super cute. I just happen to have a webbing that matches the fabric perfectly. And I didn't even plan that. It's a nice change. Okay, so that's one side on. So now again, we're going to make sure that there's no twists in it. And then bring it round without twisting your hand. And add it to this side. Not sure why I twisted that. Now, if you need help with the placement, definitely put down some double-sided tape, as it's not going to affect the outcome of the bag. But apparently my double-sided tape doesn't like this fabric and won't stick to it. Alright, I'm going to put my needle down and then pivot and draw along that line. Now yours might look a little bit different because your webbing is thicker. But so long as it goes over the pocket, we're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to trim my tails now. And that is your back piece done. That's actually really cute. This is a good fabric choice for me. Alright. We have done that. So now we are up to this bit. So take my shorter zipper, which I've already put my zipper pull on. And then we're going to take our 2 zipper tabs. And with right sides together, we're going to stitch, oops, I just dropped that one. So I'm going to do a 1/4 inch stitch along here. And then I'm going to chain stitch the next one. So I'm going to swing the zip round and place this one right sides together as well. And then chain stitch this next one. Chain stitching is a really good way to save thread and time because you're not cutting as many tails. And then we're going to pull this back and we're going to top stitch, and I'm just going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. I'm still going to backstitch because I don't want the stitches to come out, and it is a very small area. Stitch across, backstitch. Trim it apart, and so now you should have your zipper with your tabs. Next page. So we need to find the center of everything. So I'm just going to fold the zipper in half. Now you can mark it with something. I'm just going to put a clip on it. Grab one out of Scully there. Like that. And then we're taking our bottom piece first. So I'm going to fold it in half to find your center. You could also mark that on your fabric as you're cutting out the pattern, because it does have that center point marked for you. And then we're going to put right side of your fabric and your zipper together. So we're going to put zipper face down and clip it along here. Now if you're more advanced to sewing, you possibly don't need to clip, but I'm just assuming that you guys are not advanced, so I'm going to clip it in case you're sewing along with me. And if not, that's cool too. Just skip 10 seconds. We'll get there. Now your zipper tabs actually go past the fabric a little bit, but that's okay. That you prefer them to be too long than too short. If they're too short, then you're going to have a gap. Whereas if they're too long, I can trim it off at the end. So, that's now on. Clip that together. And then we're going to take our lining piece. Like this. And take this, clip the edge to the center marks. All right, so we're just going to center this. Oh, hold on, I've grabbed the wrong one. I need this one. That's why I was like, this doesn't make sense, but it's because I've grabbed the wrong one, so that's okay. So now I'm going to add this in to the clips that I've already done. Now if you need to find the center again, you can definitely fold it over, clip the center, and then add it in. But I'm alright. That's the center there. Then I'm just going to add this into all of my clips like so. Now I'm going to stitch it down. So I'm going to start all the way at the end of my zipper tab, because why not? And then I'm also going to, with my needle down, so that I can maneuver without a worry, I'm going to move the zipper pull so that I can stitch a bit and then put it back in that corner out of the way. So I'm going to stop with my needle down again, lift up my foot, and zip the zipper up over there. I think I just ran out of bobbin thread. I can hear it misbehaving. Sometimes you just know. Here's another one I prepared earlier, so don't stress. Pop it back in. I'm going to do one full rotation of the needle, and that pulls up my bottom part. And then I'm just going to go back a few stitches from where I left off and continue to sew. That already sounds better. All the way off the edge and then back stitch. Now I'm going to come and trim off all the tails, especially because I got those random middle ones. We don't want that. Okay, next step. We're going to push both of these down. And I'm just going to finger press this seam along here. You can also iron it if you want to. I'm just going to finger press it like that. and then we're going to top stitch. So for my top stitch, I like a longer stitch length. So I've cranked mine all the way up to 4. And I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to stitch along. Okay. Trim off my tails. Now I've got a little bit of a bird's nest here. See this? This happens on industrial machines specifically when you don't hold the thread when you start stitching. So sometimes it can get a little bit kind of muddled up, but you can basically fix it. You just kind of wiggle it. I just wiggle it with my scissors like this until the loose ends come out. But whatever. Okay, so now we're going to take our awesome top piece that we've done. And again, we're going to need to find the center. You can also rub off your chalk marks because we're finished with those. So to find the center, you can just fold it in half. Or you could have marked it on your pattern piece as you were doing it. Both options work. I'm going to zip this up to find the center because it means it's not going to distort anything on me. There's the center. So we're going to line up the center with the center. And because it's an angle, you should definitely mark it like that. Didn't matter with the first one. But this one, it's not that you don't want it to line up, but you just definitely want to make sure that you've got the correct center. And then I'm just going to clip this one into, or onto, not into, onto the zipper. And we obviously want right sides together so that we're not going to see any raw edges or the back piece, like so. And then we're going to take our last lining pocket, flip it over, and again, find the center, like so. I should have just found the center of all pieces. It is quite a normal thing I need to do. Most bags want you to find the center. And then I can just add that in to the zipper at the middle clip, like so. It should also be pretty much lining up with your other piece. And then we're going to stitch. I'd like to do it from the right side up because that's just my process. And I'm going to go back to my 2.5 stitch length. Now everybody's got like a slightly different normal, I say normal because nothing's ever normal, but like your normal joining stitch length. Everyone's got like a favorite number that they like on their machine. Mine is 2.5. I know a lot of domestics come with 2.4 or 2.6 as their standard stitch when you turn it on. There we go. And now it's asking us to understitch. So what that means is we're going to pull this out, but just this one, and we're going to stitch along this edge. So I'm going to backstitch at the start, and then I'm just going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the zipper, making sure that all the other edges are out of the way. So we usually do this opposite with a lot of bag patterns where you only top stitch. This time we are only understitching, which is actually kind of cool. Haven't done a bag with understitching yet. This would be a first, so there you go. Okay. So then we're going to put these two pieces together, which should line up lovely. And when you pin the clip, you'll notice that one is longer than the other. This is a deliberate thing, so don't stress about that. So we're going to stitch down and across, and we don't worry about the fact that this is a different size. She's done it deliberately to give you some wiggle room. So I might go from this way. So I'm gonna leave a gap in the bottom here, and I'm just gonna stitch up and around and backstitch. Now backstitching only needs to be 2 or 3 stitches. You don't need to do like 4 inches of backstitching. It becomes irrelevant at some point. Okay, so then again, I'm gonna come to here. I'm going to leave a decent gap, making sure that everything's smooth and flat. And then come up around the side. And stitch that shut. And then backstitch. I want to come along and trim off all these tails that I can see, because it's easier to do it now than later. And then I'm going to take some scissors and just trim off this excess. And you can also trim off some of the excess on that part too. Doesn't necessarily matter, but there we go. So now you've got a pocket with a hole, and when you open it, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see your understitching right there. So now you can go ahead, actually I'm going to leave that open. You can go ahead and trim off any excess of the zipper tab that you've got, because we don't need that bit anymore. Okay. Done. And happy days. Okay, so now we need our longer zip, and then put your zipper pull on. I've already done it, but I'm saying it in the video to remind you to do it. And then we're going to need our gusset piece. I'm just going to pop that up there because that's done. And then the same way we did before, we're going to put our right sides together, pop it under the machine, stitch and backstitch, making sure that we're at a joining stitch length. And then you can, even while you're here, flip it back and then top stitch it. And do it all at once on one end. Now the reason that I'm not chain stitching this like I did the other one is because I want to make sure that nothing is twisted anywhere. So we're going to put this together, and you're going to make sure that it's a perfect non-twisted loop. And then we can go in onto the other side. Backstitch to lock it in. Fold back the top and then top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. So now we have a gusset. Now before I go stitching anything else, I'm pretty sure we want to go and iron our foam on the back of here. So I'm going to hit pause for this because I need to wait for my heat press to heat up. So I'm now going to go and iron this onto the back, and then we'll be back to sew the rest of the bag. Okay, so for this bit, as you can tell, I've moved the camera because I'm going to do more clipping than sewing, so I want you to be able to see what's going on. So I've got my foam attached to the back now. So we're going to take our loop, our zipper loop, and we're going to clip right sides together. So we're going to put our zipper down, and what we want to do is we want to line up this join with the top of this tab. That's where we're going to clip the first clip. And then we're going to work our way up and around. So use as many clips as you like. I always use more towards corners so that it's going to sit where I want it to. And I'm also going to split the zip open because it's going to be easier to work with than if it was shut. So I'm making sure I put my clips all the way up to the zipper teeth so that it's sitting where it will be stitched. Ta-da! So then I'm going to come around to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start there so that they're joined along there, and then I'm going to clip up towards the corner. Making sure that the zipper tape is touching those edges. And then we need to make sure that we pull our handle down and maybe even tuck it into that pocket so that it stays out of the way so that we're not going to stitch it, because then it won't work as a handle. And then we can just go along here and clip this down. Now, you probably need less clips along this top straight part, but if you feel like you want more, definitely do more. The reason I've just stolen them from there is because I could see that it wasn't quite sitting properly in this corner, and that was going to annoy me. I'm going to put 2 clips in that tiny space like, oops, not like that, like that. So now our top has been clipped. So now we can continue moving around the bottom. That's a very clever design move, by the way, to make the zipper sit exactly at those. I like that. That's very, very clever. So again, we're going to clip the corners into place. Grab some more clips. Sorry, I like to clip in my lap. It doesn't hurt my arms as much. If I'm clipping like this, my arms get tired. Whereas if they're closer to my body, I don't know, I seem to be okay. So you'll see along the straight bits, my clips get further apart. And then we just want to clip this down into the corner like that. Use as few or as many clips as you need to get it all nice and smooth. All right, now we have clipped all the way. That's all clipped. We're going to have gusset side up, and we're just going to stitch with a really small seam allowance. So we need to come back and restitch this later when we put our lining on. So we just want to do it right near the edge. So I'm just going to come along and slowly take off my clip as I tack it down. Now I'm doing like about a 1/8 of an inch. So it's just nice and close to that edge of the tape and not close to the teeth. But it's also still going to stay on. So now that I'm near my zipper pull, I'm going to lift up my foot and just zip it out of the way. Alright, and I'm going to clean up these clips as I go. Even though I know I'm about to pull them out to do the other side, I like them to sit where I want them to sit. And it's always nice to be sewing in a clean workspace. Right, so now that I've stitched all the way around, I can trim off those tails. You just want to double check, make sure that you haven't missed anywhere. I have missed just here. So I can just come back and stitch that down from the other side so I can see what I'm doing. All right, there we go. So now we're going to take our other exterior piece and we're going to do the same thing. The main difference being is we're going to line up the corners because that should... So what you can do is you can lay this down so it matches perfectly with the other side. You can even put it on the back to stop fighting it. And so where the zipper starts, I'm just going to make a small clip. And so then when I put it back here, I know where to line it up. Like, if I can pick up a clip, that. So now I'm going to clip it again with the zipper side up so that I can see what I'm doing. And I want to unzip the zip as much as possible. And so then I'm going to grab all my clips again and we're going to do the same thing again. So I've got my gusset side facing up and I'm putting my clips on side up. You should always put the clips up the way that you want to stitch because it's easier to pull them off later, down the track. That happens sometimes to clips. These colored ones were like cheap on eBay. I've got two types in this bucket. I've got the cheap ones and then I've got the really expensive ones. The expensive ones are good. Like they outlast the cheap ones, but they are very pricey. Whereas I think I got 100 of these for $16. The good ones you get they're $32 for like maybe 50? I don't know, something. So I like to have a mix. So like the all purple ones here, I think they're Clover brand. These are the good ones. They're really strong. And I think I've only broken one in the whole time I've had them. Whereas these last me around 6 to 12 months and then break. Which I'm not mad about. Like I still get my use out of them. But yeah, these ones here have a stronger spring in them as well. So they're firmer to hold. It's just nice to have both, really. I also like the fact that they're multicolored. That's kind of fun. Makes them whimsical. So I'm up to a corner. So you'll notice that I use a lot more clips at the corner because I want it to sit where I'm putting it. And then I'll use less clips on a straight because it's straight and so it's not going to fight me. Tends to be how that goes. Sorry about that. I had to take the call that was coming in. So I finished clipping all the way around. So again, I'm going to do it from gusset side up and I'm just going to push the other piece out of the way. So now I'm going to stitch all the way around. I'm going to start wherever. And I just want to do a really small seam allowance up this top part where the zipper is, because I've still got to stitch another part to the zip. So I'm going to tidy up my clips as I go. stopping with the needle in the down position. See, at this top, we can just pull the right open. Stitching around, tidying our clips, making sure that we're getting both layers. There's no point of stitching it if it's not joining anything. And then again, just pushing the other side out of the way. It's a small gusset, but it's worth it. I promise. Alright. So now we have stitched all the way around. So it should really be starting to look, it should look like a case, just an unlined one. Okay, so now we're going to take, whoops, just dropped everything. That's okay. Take our lining piece and I'm going to attach it to the top zipper edge. And we're only going to stitch the top zipper bit. So like from zipper to zipper, we're not going to stitch it all the way around. So we just want to take these . Then we're going to continue around the curve, pushing, so I'm constantly pushing the zipper teeth out of the way so that I'm not going to accidentally stitch them, because that would just wreck my day if that happened. Probably wouldn't wreck my day, although I'm pretty tired, so maybe it might. Who knows? Might finally have a tantrum at something on camera. Who knows? Alright, so again, I'm just maneuvering the tape and pulling it down and then putting a clip. And again, I've got lots of clips in the corner. I'm actually going to fold this bit down because it's getting in my way. So I'm going to tuck that in. The bulk is distracting me from clipping everything correctly. So we're going to get down to the zipper and I'm going to put one clip past the zipper right there. Then I can come back and do the same to the other side. This side will be quicker though because one side is longer. Technically not, but like the zip is the size that it is. It goes down further on one side, and then again I'm going to do one clip past that join. And so now we're going to stitch that together. I think I'm going to do it lining side up. So I'm going to squish it down. I can see where I'm starting. I'm going to backstitch. And then I'm just going to use my fingernails to make sure that I'm not stitching the zipper teeth. You really don't want to do that. You're going to have to unpick it all if you do. So I'm just going to go slow and steady because we don't want to botch this. If you wreck your zipper teeth, you're going to have to unpull it all, which is definitely not ideal. Especially since I've got to pick my child up soon. I would like to get this finished before that happens. Alright, so I'm nearly to the end, but I'm also where the zipper tab, zipper pull is. So I'm going to just see if I can zip that up just past where I'm trying to stitch. It might work, it might fight me, who knows? There we go. All right, do that last little bit. I didn't have to move the zipper much. Just enough to get in there. And then I backstitched it shut. And now I'm just going to shove that inside the bag so it's out of the way. And we're going to do the same to the other side. There you go. You probably tuck the whole part of the bag in. Right sides together. I'm going to start at the corners because I know it's the same size. Making sure that the teeth are down out of the way. I'm going to clip it. So my lining fabric is actually a sateen. I had a little bit left over, so I didn't have enough to do both the pockets, just the main pocket, but it's matching the color of the dude's shirt very well, which is why I chose to use it. I like it when things match, which I've pulled something too tight because this doesn't match. So sometimes that'll happen if I've over pulled it or if I've manipulated it like this or something while I was clipping. Sometimes it looks like it doesn't fit. But if I go back and readjust, look at that. Can't even tell. And the corners have to match up. It's very important. Because if it's crooked, it's going to sit crooked when we put the lining in. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to clip one clip past that join, mainly so I know where to start and finish. So I'm going to come and do this side as well. Oh, nearly fell off the table. So I'm just pushing the other side that I've already stitched out of the way. And I'm going to put one clip past where I want to start and finish, just to help hold it in place. In fact, I might even do my heavy duty clip. So now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to make sure that the teeth are out of the way, and I'm going to backstitch first. When you're doing a corner, you really want to pull this. It'll feel like it's going really fast, which is why you should stitch slower. And then I'm going to clean up my clips as I go so that I don't end up with a giant mess. Nice and slowly, and then when we get to the curve, I'm going to make sure those teeth are well and truly out of the way. There's my finish. So then we're going to backstitch. And then trim all the tails I didn't trim before. Awesome. So now it should look like this. So with this pocket open, which was our front angled pocket we did, we need to make sure that that's open because that's where we're going to turn the bag through. And I'm just going to join the rest of this pocket. So I don't really need a lot of clips along that bottom because I know it's going to sit the way I want it to, like that. I'm not really fighting with foam or anything on this, but when we get up closer to this end, we're going to try and get as close to our other stitching as possible. So with it all lined up, I'm going to add some clips. We're going to see how we go. So I'm also going to clip the other side. Okay, so we want to stitch all of this, but what I'm going to do to make it easier on myself is instead of starting in the corner, I'm going to start in the middle on the flat bit, right here. So I'm going to backstitch. This is the easy bit. And I'm trying to get up in that corner, so I'm heading in that direction. I'm also making sure that I'm folding both of these pieces back. And you want to get as close as you can. I actually managed to make mine touch, which I didn't think was going to happen. If you have like a 1 or 2 stitch gap, that's okay. All right. So now I'm going to come back to my center. And I'm going to backstitch again, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Heading towards the bulk is always easier than heading away from the bulk. So if you start here, you'll never get close to that corner. But because I'm heading towards there, I don't know why, but it just works better. Alright, so I'm not going to get as close on this one. And that's okay. That's about as close as I'm going to get. So I'm going to backstitch. And then, in that gap, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little, like, horizontal line to reinforce that seam. I don't really need to do one on this side, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like that. I just made a nice big knot. I'm going to trim all my tails. Going to come to that middle and chop them all off. And then we're just going to clip right, it's below. So below that horizontal line we just did, we're going to do a little clip. Let me see if I can show you. So there's my line, and then there's my clip. See how that moves? And now all you have to do is put your hand into the zipper pocket. And we're going to pull it all through. So I'm going to maneuver this end through like this. And now that I've got the first bit through, I'm going to use my thumbs and kind of push it through the pocket like so. So I'm not doing big bits at a time. And I can also grab here and then I'm going to roll with my hand out. I'm not just going to pull like this. That is how you break seams. We're obviously not trying to do that. So I'm going to get this part of the pocket. And what you want to try and do is the pocket we're trying to turn it through, you want to get the whole bag sitting inside it like this. I know that looks really weird, but from here, if you can get that, it's going to ease through really well. See? You kind of just want to shove it all in. Grab that bit, pull that bit through as well. And then I'm going to push the lining into the bag, pulling out my corners like this. And then you want to zip up the bag to make sure that you haven't caught the zip anywhere. So it should now zip up. I still need to iron this down, which I'm going to do at the end. Also going to push that corner out. If you're struggling, just put your hand back into the pocket and then push the corner out. like so. There we go. Now it looks a little skewy, but it's going to need an iron. So now the last step is we just need to seal off this zipper pocket. Now because it's orange, I am going to top stitch it in orange so that it's not a big black noticeable mark. Now I cheat a little bit when I change my colors over. I don't rethread the entire machine. I cut half of it off. I just wind up the last of that and pop it back. This is a fun little bobbin case that come with a sewing box. But I broke the sewing box. But I kept that bit because it's cool. Alright, so I just want a little tail so I've got something to grab onto. And I'm going to take it out of my needle. And then I just chop my thread off at the start of all of my threading. And I'm going to add my new colour on and through the loop. I tie it on to my old coloured thread, and then I'm just going to pull the whole thing through like that. And just like that, my whole machine is threaded. Now I don't do that to domestics because I can thread a domestic without letting go of the thread. You just go up, down, up, down. This one's a lot more trickier than that. And for that reason, I don't like to have to thread it all the time. And for the, 30 centimeters of thread I waste, I've just saved myself a couple of minutes. Which adds up over the course of, even a day. So now all I want to do is I'm going to stick my fingers at the edge here. And pushing that edge down, we're going to pinch it together. And then I'm just going to clip it, or pin it if you'd prefer pins. The raw edges on the inside like this. Normally I actually wouldn't clip this, but I'm going to, just to show you. So we're hiding those raw edges. I'll get really close for you. I'm hiding those raw edges and I'm just folding them to the inside like that, and then clipping it shut like that. Really hard to do that far away from my body, but you get the idea. So then I'm just going to come under and I'm going to top stitch as close as I can to that edge without falling off the edge. And then back stitch. Trim off my tail. And then tuck that into the bag. And then I just need to give that a final press. But you are all done. That is one laptop bag. That's really cute. Anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful to you. And I will see you for the next video.